Hello and welcome to Gazette discussion for 18 June 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and in this discussion we will cover many interesting articles. The featured news for today is on Aspirational Districts program. This program has been appreciated by UNDP, and in this article we will understand how the government is trying to develop certain important districts, laggard districts, and also assess the performance. This day in history is about Rani Lakshmibai, who sacrificed her life on the same day, 18 June. News snapshots. Three important snapshots, important news that we have covered today are: one, India's performance in World Competitiveness Index. The second one relates to an important passage of Bill, Inland Vessels Bill, an improvement over the past. And the third one is about the commodity market, how it is going through a cyclical recovery. Image of the day is about mud puddling and butterflies. Terms and concepts. We have covered three terms and concepts for today, important for the pre-exam. One is ASEAN ADDM, ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus. Then second one is about hallmarking of gold, which the government has spoken about now, and the increase in direct tax collection. Two editorials, very good ones for today. One of them is about disruptive technology, new technologies which can transform the health sector, especially during these times. And the second is about UAPA and some criticisms regarding it. Case study, a very inspirational one, is about a man who changed the rural face of earth through sanitation drives, Dr. Mapuskar. Let's start the discussion. The first article for today is about the Aspirational Districts program, which has been appreciated by UNDP, United Nations Development Program. Right now, this program was initiated because there was less inclusivity in development of the country, and therefore the government divided some of the districts. Found out through survey that certain districts were to be more focused for development. So it shows 117 districts all throughout the country, and it mapped what all development parameters should be included in these 117 districts. Right, they are affected by some of the other issues. For example, left-wing extremism is prominent in certain sectors. Right, then there is insurgency at certain place, and there are lacunae in development, there are laggards in development at certain other places as well, right, certain other pockets. So therefore the government unified all of them, all these places, and it started to focus on the inclusivity in all the programs at these places. The government ensures to rank these districts on the basis of 5 parameters, these 5 critical sectors, which are healthcare, education, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion, and basic infrastructure. Right, so these 5 parameters have got different scales, and for example, health has got 30% weightage and education also has got 30% weightage. Similarly, infrastructure has got 10% weightage. So these are the parameters on which all these states receive ranks. Right, the main idea is at 3 levels, 3C. So this is an important keyword. First one is convergence, second one is collaboration, and third one is competition. Third one, the competition, is the one where the districts are ranked. However, convergence is about converging all the initiatives of the government, right? It will not only be water development, water programs, but sanitation also. It will also be road construction. So all of them taken together in a particular district, right? So that is convergence of all the programs. Collaboration, all the authorities, government authorities will be collaborating together, right? They will not be working in isolation, and hence this synergy. So please remember this 3C and these 5 sectors in which the government is working, right? So most of the districts are either left-wing extremist affected districts, or the ones which have been affected by insurgency, or isolated districts in the country, right? So this is what the program basically is about. However, we must know how the government functions here, how the government wants to develop these places, right? So what happens in these places is that there is a vicious cycle. There is a vicious cycle in which the development, even if try to be done at certain level, it fails. How and why? Let's see. Now, there are places where there is lack of livelihood opportunity. If there is no livelihood, people will have no money to spend. So they'll not be able to spend on health, on education, on their well-being, on their children, etc. And that is why they have some disenchantment with the government. They don't feel contented. They feel there is some issue with the government. Government is not helping them. Corruption adds to it, right? and therefore it increases the left-wing extremist tendencies of the people in that region. And again, there is a deficit in governance, right? So this is how the whole cycle repeats, and again people will not be able to earn, so and then they will further become weaker, right, economically and socially, and then this is called as a vicious cycle. The same cycle can be overturned, right, starting at certain important sector. For example, the government can start working at the social indicators, it can start working at the level of education, health, right? It can, if it creates livelihood opportunities, people will have money to spend. If they have money to spend, they will start feeling better, there will be less corruption, right? So the whole vicious cycle can be transformed into a virtuous cycle. These cycles are there for all the places. However, this was a quick understanding for you to understand how the government is trying to manage these places. And the government has adopted four-fold strategies, right? This four-fold strategy is this, right? First one is security measure. To counter the Naxal attacks, the extremist attacks, security measures have to be in place. For example, if a building is blown, government has to put some security at those places, right? Hospitals, schools, etc., right? Government has to also complement it with developmental measures. For example, if the school is closed, how will the students go to the school and study? If the hospitals are not functional, if the panchayat is not working, if elections are not happening, then how will development take place at the grassroots? So security along with development, the government needs to manage the perception as well, right? It has to reach out to the most rural and backward districts, in forests, in terrains which are easily not accessible, right? So it has to go there and manage the perception of the people that yes, government can make a difference, government can bring about a change. And this is where the civil servants can come and play an important role, right? And then it has to ensure by managing perception that it can actually work for the entitlement for the people. So these four things are very important. See, these are something you can put in general answer as well, right? Managing perception, entitlement for the local communities and development. But security measures are something which make it specific to aspirational districts, right? And so not only the government directly functioning, but the ministries are also taking responsibilities here. How? For example, road connectivity done by Ministry of Roads, right? Mobile connectivity, digital connectivity, again very important, right? Education and skill, and then financial inclusion. These are some examples of how all the ministries are trying to work in coordination in every district, right? Earlier, for example, Ministry of Road was working in isolation, connecting all the districts, all the district roads, rural roads. But now the road connectivity will work along with mobile connectivity and education, right? So the idea is to develop a holistic scheme for development of every district, and they will be rated. They will be rated. That is the most interesting part, where the evaluation will come into play. And this is where the districts in India have been appreciated. This program has been appreciated by UNDP, right? A good feat for the government. So let us assess. Now questions won't be asked as simple, right? This was a basic understanding so that you develop an answer and perspective, but questions might not be asked in that way. Questions can be asked in the way the program functions and how it can develop, what are the lacunae and how it has actually evolved. So assessment of this aspirational districts program, transformation of aspirational districts program. Now sector wise growth. So first important thing is, since we have divided it into 5 important sectors and then subdivided into various groups, so each of them has got more focus now. So there is focus on specific things, like for example malnutrition, for example Anganwadi center development, right? Infant and children mortality rate. So these things, each specific pointer has been focused now, so it has acted as a catalyst for growth. Okay, now in case of understanding the way the program has improved, one way it has improved is through convergence. Why? Because when the schemes are converging, it leads to moving away from working in silos. What are silos? These are closed spaces, right? Closed spaces where grains are stored. So if all the programs, for example, if we are working on sanitation drive, we create toilets. However, we are not ensuring if the person is drinking pure water or not, right? So then the disease again will come even if they are using the toilets, right? So therefore toilet creation, sanitation along with drinking potable water, pure water, both are important. They have to be working in tandem, not in isolation. And therefore this scheme has brought convergence in various programs, right? If we create hospitals, however we don't create roads, then how will the people reach the hospital? So convergence, very important, right? This is the evaluation performance of the program. That is why it has been appreciated. Okay, competitive federalism. This has introduced a level of competition and better monitoring at the national level of all the programs, because there is a whole hierarchy: state administration, national administration, district administration, and then sub-district level. So this is a good development in that sense, right? Okay, next one is, now this highlights weaknesses, because there is a data-driven approach. Data is taken for every parameter, whether it is an output or whether it is an outcome. Output is number of hospitals created, and outcome is reduction in maternal mortality, right? The effectiveness of that program. So when it is measured, then it becomes more effective, right? Weakness is highlighted and strength are also understood, right? It has helped in capacity building of the role players there, right? If infrastructure has been built, if people have been trained and they are working well, it has built capacity for future growth of the region, right? So these are some important evaluations of the program, right? It also helps in long-term planning. If we know that this particular area is the place where water availability is not good, so long-term planning, prospective planning can be done for that area, right? So that is how it helps. Addition or revision. Now there are certain places, for example, if all the villages have been electrified, then what is the need for putting that parameter in the criteria? It can be removed. We can have higher parameters for development in all these districts, right? So addition or revision, some things have to be changed. So this is a feedback. This has to be improved, right? So another one is aspirations of the non-aspirational districts. Very interesting. Now, once these aspirational districts have started to ask for services, products for themselves, the non-aspirational districts have also started to say, oh, we also don't have this. We lack in these certain sectors and measures. The toilets here are not sufficient and we need regular panchayat meetings, right? So because of this has created a chain effect, a good chain effect for the country, right? Okay. Effectiveness of this ADEP program, right? And this is how we have understood that this program has become more effective than before. All right. Now, how should we move ahead on this, right? Certain important feedbacks so that the answer becomes complete in case the criticism is asked. Now, disparities among districts. All the districts are not rated on the same parameters, right? Because certain districts have certain particular issues. Therefore, it creates a lag between the way the districts are rated. For example, if Kutch has certain problems, a district in Jharkhand won't have that problem, right? Jharkhand is a terrain which has more of Jhar, that means forest, and Kutch has issues of water, progress, isolation, right? Geographical isolation. So the issues in both the places are different, and therefore there's a disparity in the way they are rated, right? Then the next one is data discrepancy. Since there is a competition, people want to present themselves as better. The administration wants to project themselves as better than others, and therefore data reporting has to be accurate. This is where many places might lag, right? We need to have better data and better analysis of the data, right? Then there is a scope for collaboration, always a scope for better collaboration. This is for future development. And one of the important parameters is addition of sectors. As I mentioned, if electrification has been done in all the districts, let's not use it. Let's use another parameter, another one which is important. For example, environment. Very good theme for development, environment. So environment must be environment, saving the environment and helping it grow. The ecosystem must be an important parameter. So this is how the progress of all the districts happen, right? So note down the important terms that were used, pause the video, think for 1 minute what was discussed. What was discussed was how, first of all, what is this program? What is this program? We discussed, and then we discussed how the government is working, right? Note down the vicious cycle and virtuous cycle from there, and the 4 parameters. One is development, security, the 4 aspects, and after that come on to the evaluation, and then write down 5 or 6 important keywords so that you are able to create a holistic understanding. Take a minute to think, pause the video, and then note down these things. After that, you can try to attempt this question. What is the aspirational district program? Examine its progress in brief, right? Okay. The next article is an interesting one, this day in history. Now, this particular day in history, 18 June 1858, Rani Lakshmibai, she sacrificed her life for her noble cause. This was the cause of independence against the British, right? Now, she was a queen who took on the throne and her husband's name Gangadhar Rao Nevalkar, right? She was also called as Mani Karnika. That was her actual name, and she had committed herself to improvement in shooting, fencing, Malkham, and horsemanship. Now, horsemanship is a male tendency, male chauvinistic word. So, horse sport, that is how you can call it. Shooting, fencing. What is fencing? Fencing is the art of using the sword, right? And it is also a sport in Olympics. Malkham, you must know what Malkham is, right? So, let me show you a quick image of Malkham. Malkham is the sport, is the state sport of Madhya Pradesh, right? This is the following of yoga along with gymnastics, along with balance, right? So this is the Malkham sport, right? Something very interesting to note here is that these sculptures of Maharani Lakshmibai drawn, right? These are the ones where the horse has both feet up. Now, the sculptors understand it in a different way. Both the feet up means something, 1 foot up means something else if somebody has been sculpting the images, and if both feet are down, it means something else. Both feet up signifies that the person who is sitting on the horse sacrificed their life in the war. They died in the war. 1 foot up signifies that the person was injured in the war, and both feet down, that means they passed away, but it was their death was not related to war, right? So we can easily understand how Rana Pratap could be signified here, right? This is Ajmer, right? And this is his statue, 1 foot up. That means he was injured in the war, and that is true. So this is some trivia, important information. It could be asked somewhere. So that is why I would like to have a quick feedback. Is this type of understanding where I put in important fodder material for UPSC exam related material? For example, Malkham. For example, these the way the sculptures are drawn. Is this good for you, or would you like straight away to discuss the topic and move ahead? Please give me a feedback. Thanks. Okay, the important snapshot for today. The first one is World Competitiveness Index 2021. Now, India has maintained its position at 43 for the last 3 years. This is the third time India has had this position, right? Now, this index rates the countries, around 64 countries, on the parameters of economic prosperity. And the 4 categories used are economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, and infrastructure development. So these are the 4 parameters it uses, and this is how it rates, right? Now, the best part about this report is that this is also inclusive of the way COVID has performed at various countries, and European Union has come out the best here because Europe has been more resilient to face this pandemic, right? The best part about it is that Europe and other places which transform their economy into innovative means, for example, remote work routine. This is something economy had to transit very soon, within months of the coming of pandemic. So this is an important parameter, and this is one thing on which all the countries were rated. EU stood very advanced in this, right? Now, India is rated decently here. It is behind China. However, it is ahead of countries like Russia, Brazil, and South Africa, all the BRICS nation, right? Okay. Now, innovation, digitalization, welfare benefits, social cohesion, these were important key points while creating this report for the countries, right? So let us look at this. India's performance. Now, performance has not changed in the last 3 years, 43 rank, right? However, if we see the development in infrastructure, it has changed with time, right? So this is what is to note here. All right. The second snapshot is about Inland Vessel Bill. Now, we already had an act on inland vessel. However, this was an archaic act and it had certain important improvements in it, but we needed a new act, right? We needed an overarching act at the union level so that there could be synchrony in the registration of vehicles, in the registration of ships and other containers moving in the inland water transport region. We could have synchrony in all the ecosystem of the ships. So let's look at it. Now, Inland Water Vessel Bill, it relates to the unified law for the whole nation, right? The states would have different laws, each states, but these vessels have to pass through the states, different states, right? So they need to have a unified law, a new law under which the administration of all the vessels could happen. Therefore, this law. The second is, just like the vehicles are registered, right? Even the ships are registered. Even the ships are insured. These vessels, the small containers, they are also sold. They are also purchased. They also have a life. So this is the regulation which talks about the holistic understanding relating to all the vessels being used in inland areas, right? Because in India also is trying to accelerate this additional mode of transport, and hence the need for this bill, right? Now, central database, we need to have, just like vehicle registration has a central database, Vahan, therefore we need to have a central database for these travel mode as well. Okay. Now, inland water, right? The significance of inland water, because we have India has diversity and we have got lakes, streams, rivers. We are trying to utilize them as additional mode of transport. Therefore, we need this login, right? Now, pollution control. Now, it is important to understand that as this mode of movement also improves, there will be pollution, and therefore there has to be pollution control as well. So this act talks about that, right? Earlier we did not have this prosperity, and therefore this was not the need. We need it now, and therefore this law has inclusion of all that as well. Now, we have also seen small container vessels parked at some place. Now they are not in function, and therefore it is all rusting and creating dirt in the region. So if they are registered and if they are causing some damage to the environment, right, the wreckage, salvage, they will be penalized, right, with the help of, so one cannot abandon their ship, their boat, it cannot be deserted or dumped anywhere. So these are the important things that have been mentioned, right? It's very important to understand that this is a significant aspect of economy which has been underplayed, which has not been utilized, and therefore some laws are mandatorily required for its development, right? So this is an important bill for safety, security of vessels, registration to be done, right, environment, etc. Okay, so this was the news. Commodity market facing cyclic recovery. Now this is an important news relating to economy, because the economy in India has started to rebound, right? The last year faced a lot of issues in economy in the sectors of commodity, in the sectors of equity. Equity means having a share to the company. But commodity is a product. Now, commodity market involves selling and purchasing of products, especially the primary products, not the created ones, but the primary products. For example, so there are 4 kinds of products which are sold here and purchased. They are agricultural products, right? Agricultural commodities, soybean, cotton, right? These products. And then we have bullion, gold, right? Gold, silver. So these are the ones which are in the bullion market, bullion commodity. Then we have energy commodity like oil and metals. Right, so these are the items which are sold and purchased, right? And many of them are purchased and sold in advance. Future trade happens, right? We create an ecosystem where the article has to be purchased in future, right? So these are the future contracts which are done through this, and this market has received a big boom now. Why? There is a surge in demand of these products. The rate have suddenly gone up, because the economy is seeing a recovery, right? The economy sees that there will be future demand in these products, and therefore the rates have gone up. This is the important thing about it. Last year, see, there is an effect of the last year as well, because last year rates had gone down, therefore there is a cyclic recovery. So we must see what is a cyclic recovery. This is a cycle, right? So once a peak is achieved, and after that there is a recession, and then there is a recovery, growth, and then again recession and growth. So this is a continuous phase, this is a cycle, and that is why it is called as cyclic recovery of this commodity market, right? So prices have gained a lot in the last 1 year. This is what is the news about, right? Take the key points and move ahead. Most of it is related to understanding. Snapshot articles, we try to make you understand what is the important news and some basic understanding about it. Note the key points and let's move ahead. Okay. Now, important reasons for this recovery. See, one of them is prospects. As I mentioned, they see future good prospects, they will improve it, right? Geopolitics and monetary policy. Now, these are very important. These are always in news. Geopolitics. Why? Because if we understand there is issue in the Middle East, there is a crisis with Iran, if there is a crisis with countries in the Middle East, so people will start to demand more oil to preserve it with themselves, right? This is one thing, because suddenly if there is a shortfall in production, then economies cannot go haywire. They have to have more production with themselves and save more. So that is why geopolitics is always an important factor in international pricing. The second one is monetary policy. America's monetary policy is also very important. Now, when America starts to expand money, to invest money, to release more money in the market, to have more liquidity, then there will be more investments, there will be more demand of the products, rates will automatically rise. So this is what is happening with monetary policy of the American government, right? Another one is weather and climate factors. These are very important factors. Why? Because if suppose agriculture fails, price will automatically rise of agriculture products, right? So this is an important factor here, right? Happening in Brazil and South America. All right, image of the day. Image of the day is about mud puddling. Puddle is a place where there is water and there is mud all around. So this is an activity which is done by butterflies. What they do is that they gather around a puddle, right? A mud puddle, and for example, there is dung, animal dung or mud, and they gather around it and they start sucking the important resource it has, right? Whatever they need. So what do they need? They might need some minerals, they might need some salts, right? Fluids. So these are the things that they do in an ecosystem, and that is why ecosystem, this is an important indicator of the progress of an ecosystem, the stability of an ecosystem, right? And they, through collection of these, they can also have more salts in their body and they can generate pheromones. What are pheromones? These are hormones which are generated and they help in guiding the others in the same, in their same ecosystem. For example, the ant, it leaves pheromones at place to help the other ants to understand what is the foraging, where is the food, right? So they help locate male organisms attract the female ones through pheromones, right? So this is the utility of pheromones. Important for ecosystem. Mud puddling. Terms and concepts. Today we have discussed 3 important terms and concepts. The first one is ASEAN Defense Minister Meeting, right? Now, first of all, ASEAN, which are the countries? These are 10 countries in the Southeast Asia. Which are these countries? Now, in this Southeast Asia, the 10 important countries here are, see, mainland, Myanmar, and then we have Thailand here, right? Thailand is also coastal and towards the edge, and then we have Malaysia. Malaysia has got a component in the mainland as well and this island as well, right? So Sumatra, Java and Borneo. This is the Borneo Island. So in Borneo Island, we have Indonesia as well, Malaysia as well, and Brunei. These 3 countries are in this island. These are the names of the island, but it is not necessary that this island will have only one country. There are 3 countries in Brunei. In the third island, Sumatra, Java and Borneo. Okay, now mainland has Myanmar. Let us analyze. Then Cambodia and Laos, and then Vietnam to the right. So 5 countries here. 6th is Malaysia, and this edge is Singapore, the edge, the city state. And 1 country, Laos, is landlocked. Very important to know, landlocked country here. And then we have Indonesia, an important country, important economy, Malaysia here, and then we have Brunei and Philippines. So these are the 10 countries involved. 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Brunei as well. And there are 8 major role players in the region, and that is why this is called as +8. So which are these countries? Let's look. See, Australia, New Zealand. We will remember them immediately. Australia, New Zealand in the southeast. Then we have Japan and South Korea. Why Japan and South Korea, not North Korea? North Korea is an exclusion. Japan and South Korea. So 2 countries here and 2 here. India and China, competitors, 2 more, 6. And then we have Russia, Russian Federation and USA. These are the important role players with the ASEAN. So this is called as ADMM, ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting, right? So these are the 10 + 8 countries. What is the main idea? Main idea is to maintain stability, to trust and have confidence in each other so that defense partnership and escalation of issues does not happen, right? This is an important area for trade, for transport, for regional growth, for extraction of resources, and therefore there must be trust between the parties here. So this is why this organization in news, right? They had their meeting. Hallmarking of gold. The government of India has finally said that hallmarking of gold is mandatory at places. Hallmarking of gold ensures good prices of gold, right? In India, as much as only 30% of gold is hallmark, right? Hallmark is a standardization by BIS where it says this particular gold product has this specific amount of gold. For example, 22 karat gold, 18 karat gold. These are the parameters which are fixed for standardizing the purity and fineness of gold, purity and fineness. Now, if they are marked, people will get good prices. If they are not marked, it is possible that it is not original, right? So these are the various things, but the issue here is assaying. So if we don't have many assaying and hallmark centers, these are the places where the identification of the gold standard is done and then it is marked. So we don't have these many of these assaying and hallmarking centers in India, and this is why the whole process has has received a setback. However, the government has now committed that many places in India, cities in India will have this, and it will be mandatorily done, right? The government has fixed a limit that above this limit of, I think, 40 lakhs or something, if the revenue of the shop is above this, there has to be mandatory BIS certification hallmarking done, right? Okay. The next article is about direct tax. Now there has been a surge in direct tax, just like we understood that commodities market has received a huge boost. Similarly, direct tax have also received a huge boost. Why? Because the last year the taxation was not as much because of the lockdown. Direct tax this time has improved a lot, the collection. Now what are the direct tax? This is what is the article about. Direct tax are the tax which are collected and which are incident on the same person, right? Collected and impacted by the same person. For example, let me share the what is indirect tax first. Indirect tax is the one where if I have purchased an article, right? I have purchased this article, but I am not giving the tax to government directly. I have purchased a soap. Am I paying the tax directly to the government? No, I'm not paying it. I have paid the tax, but the shopkeeper sitting here, they will be lodging the amount of collection and they'll be paying the tax for us. So this is indirect tax. However, if I receive salary, today, I am paying a part of that salary in the tax directly. So this is indirect tax. Direct tax. This is direct tax. So for example, if I've got income, this is direct tax. If a company has got income, if an organization has got income, it will have to pay a direct tax. Property tax. If got property, if I inherit some property from my parents, or if somebody has gifted me something, there is tax on that, and this is a direct tax. So this is why news, it has received almost, India's direct collection, it says in 2.5 months is almost double the collection of the last year period. But you must remember, last year in June, the lockdown had only opened very recently, and therefore there was less rigor in the economy and therefore less taxation. Right, editorials of the day, very good editorials for today. The first one is about disruptive technology. Now, in health sector, one must understand what is disruptive. Disruptive does not mean to disrupt. Disruptive means revolutionary, something which is transformational, something which can change the face of that particular sector very much. So, if there is disruptive technology in health sector, especially during these times, the article says there will be a huge level of benefit for universal health coverage, UHC. Universal health coverage, right? The article says that there are places where automated machines have been tried. Robots have started to collect the data from human beings. For example, testing of the various COVID samples, right, done by machines, done by robots, right? If artificial intelligence is used to give food to the medical patients of COVID, if there are articles, there are places in China where the machine is being used to ensure that the person does not have the high temperatures, right? So reducing the amount of human interactions is going to help create less issues with COVID disease, and this is where the frontier technology will help us, right? If we have data analytics, we will be able to understand and predict which are the places which will be affected more because of COVID. For example, migration data, for example, places which have got increased amount of COVID presence, right? So these are the things, and one good important word used is Internet of medical things, right? So this is very important here. The article also says that 5G technology can be harnessed at various places, and the article mentions that integration is very important, right? Integrating all the levels of development in health sector, right? It is going to take the health sector leaps ahead, right? Okay. Next article is about black box of UAPA. What is black box? Now, black box is an important device placed in the flights, the important aeroplanes, and when in case it goes through a crash, black box records all what had happened with the flight, and therefore with black box we can understand what had happened, right? So it tells about everything that happened, and now we are going to understand what's about UAPA that is not popular. Okay. Now, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, this is where this act defines what is terrorism, right? So the article says that this definition of terrorism is really very vague. Let me show you what the definition is. The article says that any person who is threatening unity, integrity, sovereignty of India. Now, this is so vague. How can one define if suppose one is indulging in vandalism? Is it disturbing the integrity and unity of India? Not sure. So this article says if one is doing this by any other means also, It is not only talking of bombs and using weapons. It says by any other means. So this leaves a lot of amount of discretion at the hands of state, and therefore many individuals who are only dissenting with the government, only protesting, they are caught up in this act, right? There is damage and destruction to property. Now these acts can also, these penal provisions can also be utilized in case we want to use another act, another provision in IPC can do it. Why do we have to define them as terrorists? Now this is the definition of a terrorist here, right? And people covered in this act will have less provisions for bail. This is what the article talks about. So first is that there is vagueness in definition of terrorist, right? And then the charge sheeting. What is charge sheet? Charge sheeting done by the government, that is also, that could be biased and it is not unchecked, right? It has to be checked by the court of law whether the charge sheet has been done in a proper manner or not. It must be cross-checked, right? The third point that the article mentions is that what is the need of laying such terrorist charge when another act can be put into place. For example, for vandalism, we have Destruction of Public Property Act, impose that. So this is the point, and an important point they have mentioned is about releasing the people on bail. Now the newspapers have shown a lot of people who have come out on bail, they were actually not the real culprits, but they've had to spend 7 to even 9 years in the jail for something that they had not committed. So understanding that a person who has been accused must not be treated as the person who has offended, right? They have the right to feel that they are not guilty, right? But in the beginning itself, the law is made such that bail is not issued and the person is ensured that it is their guilt, right? Which the article says is wrong, right? So this is what the article is about. It tries to increase the civil liberties for the people. Good article. The case study of day. The case study of today is about a man who committed himself to improving rural sanitation in Maharashtra. Now he is Dr. Mapuskar. He himself went through this condition when he was posted to rural areas. He did not have sanitation facilities in his office, and therefore he created one for himself. Slowly and steadily, he started to understand that in the 50 years of his journey, in the beginning of this journey, he understood that people did not have sanitation facilities, and most of the people would come to him for minor issues which were related to not good quality of drinking water, right? Water having some particles, fecal matter, and therefore he used to tell them, fine, you improve this condition and this will be good, right? So this is how he initiated. However, once he committed a survey, he did a survey on deworming, on worming and deworming, where he realized that the amount spent on deworming and amount spent on creation of toilets there is a huge difference, right? So he shared this information with the villagers. He said, if you want to get yourself dewormed, you have to pay this much and you have to regularly keep on taking the tablets, right? On the other hand, if you create the toilet infrastructure for yourself, it will be a lot more, it will create a lot of savings, and it will also generate an amount of respect in the family and society, right? So people started to use this method of creating toilets. So this inspirational story talks about the no profit, no loss principle of this doctor, right? He has worked for more than 50 years in this field, and unsung hero, right? What we understand through this is that medical ethics for a doctor is not restricted only to his profession. This is a social persuasion skill that he applied, and that is what every civil servant must do, right? So he brought about an attitudinal change in the society. So remember Dr. Mapuskar, right? An important doctor in the field who helped in social persuasion to decrease rural sanitation issues, right? All right. So this was the discussion for today. Thank you.